The Rams offense wakes up in the second half to get a big road dub. We've got the Rams' updated playoff chances. I got my big takeaways, winners and losers from the Rams win over the Saints. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to a Victory Monday edition of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor. Join the fastest growing Rams YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you really want to support the channel, hit that like button. Then also give me your biggest takeaway from the Rams Week 13 win over the Saints. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, Dodgers Nation, the Rams for Locked On, SI. And today I'm flying solo. The people champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, he's out today, but we've got a jam-packed show for you. We are breaking down the Rams' 21-14 Week 13 win over the New Orleans Saints. We're going to talk about what's next for the Rams. Can they sneak into the playoffs? Where those odds sit right now. We got our winners and losers, big takeaways from their big win. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So what a win on the road for your Los Angeles Rams. Right before that fourth down, I was saying Jared Verse is about to make a play. Jared Verse, the runaway for Defensive Rookie of the Year, is going to make a big play, and he certainly did in a monster way. So Rams fans, your thank you. You can thank me later for that. I felt it in my bones, the way that he was continuing to pressure all game long. And you look at Jared Verse's line. It didn't blow you away. He's had better games this season, but still, he's getting my game ball. He had 5 tackles, 3 QB hits. He ended up with 6 pressures, 3 stops. It just was an incredible performance by the rookie out of Florida State. And it's not a game where he had a big sack. It's not a game where he went out there and gave you multiple sacks. He didn't have a single sack. He didn't have a tackle for a loss, but he did finish with 5 total tackles. And every single NFL game has that one play, the you know it was over when play. And for the Rams' big win on Sunday, it's certainly was when Jared Verse got to Derek Carr on 4th down. He forced that incompletion, and that got the ball back for the Rams with a 7-point lead. And it was just great pressure by him in a situation where the Saints really thought that they could block him in a one-on-one situation with their tight end, Foster Moreau. That wasn't the way to go for the New Orleans Saints, and he had just over a minute to play, and he makes the big play, forced that incompletion, and the Rams, they escape New Orleans with a victory. Because if he does not make that play, Derek Carr maybe throws a touchdown. Maybe the Rams are forced to go into overtime on the road, which you don't love. And then right now you're talking about, okay, you lose against the Saints team on the road. Now your record is under 500 with the big bad Buffalo Bills coming to town, and your playoff odds are less than 10% at that point. So it was a huge play for Jared Verse. But kind of looking at this game as a whole, lots of takeaways, lots to really unpack here from this game, because you look at that first half, the Rams offense, they were atrocious. They did not show up. The Rams offense, were they still in Los Angeles? Did they make the plane ride to New Orleans? Were they on Bourbon Street? Were they celebrating? Because they did not show up, because at the half, it was 6-0 Saints. And the Rams, they scored 21 points in the second half to come away with a victory, and they needed all 21 to seal the deal for that win. But they really were inept in the first half. You had Matthew Stafford missing throws. You had this Rams offense just not putting together quality drives and putting up points. And they snapped a 129-game streak where they had at least scored 1 point or more. Offensively, it was a dreadful start for the Rams. and you got shut out in the first quarter. They gained just 4 yards in the first quarter. 4 yards is all they could muster up in the first quarter, and they were down 3-0 after the first 15 minutes of play. And then in the second quarter, for the second straight week, the Rams, they really struggled to stop the run, and that definitely was a concern and definitely not a positive takeaway. But Alvin Kamara had 80 yards in his first 12 carries of the game. He finished with 112 yards on 23 carries for the afternoon. They did a much better job in the second half, and they also did a really nice job against Taysom Hill coming out of the backfield before he unfortunately suffered a season-ending ACL injury during this one. But still, Kamara, he was gassing him on the ground early on, and then all of a sudden, you go into the halftime, I'm hearing the doomers out there, fire McVay, Stafford's done. This team needs to build it all, rebuild, tear it down to the studs. The Rams are done. Give me a top draft pick. And then somehow, some way, adjustments are made, and you saw them going to the screen more. You saw them opening things up with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum running really with a lot of conviction on the ground. And I think the return of Rob Havenstein certainly was felt in this one. He made his presence felt throughout. And quite frankly, this Rams offense, they caught fire in the second half. You get 3 touchdowns on your first 4 possessions. You go up 21-14, and you got your big guys stepping up. Kyron Williams gets a touchdown in the red zone. Demarcus Robinson, all he does is catch touchdowns. He's the Rams version of what Chris Carter used to be for the Minnesota Vikings so many years ago. All he does is catch touchdowns. Puka Nacua, he gets in the end zone. You got the nice screenplay with Puka Nacua. I think McVay did a really nice job of finding ways to optimize his talent on the edges, and we saw that in the second half. So you go down 6-0, you're on the road against the Saints team, and you just wake up and you're putting together really nice drives. And also, you hold that Saints team to just 8 second half points. So the defense, they've been stout all season long. They've been giving this Rams team a lot of quality, where the Rams offense, they've had a lot of key injuries. You've been mediocre at times. You struggle in the first quarter. You struggle in the red zone. Well, one of the big takeaways in this one was a much better job from the Rams offense in executing in the red zone and on third down. And that was really massive for this Rams team to get to 500, to get to 6-6 with this win. And you're right in the mix of the division, because the red zone has been a big issue for this team, but they found a way to get it done. And that is a massive takeaway. Entering this matchup, the Rams were ranked 25th in red zone touchdown percentage. They were 31st in third down conversion rate. So 25th in red zone TD percentage, 31st in third down conversion rate. Last week, the Rams, they went 0 for 8 on third down, and they started the game against the Saints on Sunday 0 for 2, and all of a sudden, the Rams, things started to click. The light turned on, and they were moving the chains all second half. They end up getting first downs on 4 of their final 7 third downs, and they end up going 4 for 9 on third down. And that's a lot better than what we've seen this season. And then more importantly than that, they go 3 for 3 in the red zone. They scored tutties all 3 trips to the red zone. And that's the biggest difference between a win and a loss. That's the biggest difference between we still have a chance to win the NFC West and make the playoffs to, oh, we're packing it up, we're a bottom feeder with the 49ers. Third down conversions and red zone touchdowns. And I think one thing we learned from this team on Sunday was you got to use Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua early and often, but also you have to use them to get DeMarcus Robinson some opportunities. I mean, we saw plenty of examples of Cooper Kupp running 9 routes, running streaks down the field, and he's taking his defender with him. And then DeMarcus Robinson, he's finding spots in the zone. He's finding ways to get open and get opportunities when Kupp's defender is going with him. So he's clearing up passing lanes. He's giving DeMarcus Robinson opportunities to score touchdowns. And then we saw that on the DeMarcus Robinson touchdown, Kupp do exactly that. So, yeah, give Kupp, give Puka a lot of credit. They've been the real deal, and Robinson is really finding himself in advantageous positions to find one-on-one matchups in the red zone, and he has that ability to go out there and score touchdowns. Demarcus Robinson is the glue guy for this Rams passing game. 7 touchdowns on the year. He had the big touchdown overtime to win it against the Seattle Seahawks. You had Tutu Atwell made a couple big catches to move the chains for some big chunk plays. So really like what I saw from the passing game in the second half, and also love the efficiency. The Rams, they ran just 55 offensive plays, and Matthew Stafford threw the ball just 24 times. So the efficiency was there. You got 21 points, and the Rams just aren't a team that's going to blow teams out. They're not going to win by 20, 30 points. That's just not what they do. But if they are efficient, if they are good in the red zone, if they are converting on third down, we've seen this defense step up and make some big plays. Now, the pressure's been there all season. Braden Fisk almost had a monster touchdown early on. Big chuggling and hustling down the line and find a way to try to get a big tutty there. And then Jared Verse makes the big play at the end. Byron Young was fantastic. Kobe Turner was fantastic. We're going to talk about them more in our Horns Up, Horns Down tomorrow. But the cornerback play, Darius Williams, giving up the touchdown to Scantling, he's just not the same guy that he was a couple years ago with the Rams. You probably want to see some more Kellis. We'll talk about that as well. But still, the defense has kept them in the game, and it's largely due to elite safety play, getting pressure up front. The linebacker play is not as pressing as we once thought because of the safety play. But all in all, a really great win to keep this season alive as far as their playoff hopes. We're going to talk about those playoff chances in a little bit. It's more big takeaways from the Rams' big Week 13 21-14 win over the New Orleans Saints. Hey, Locked On Rams fans. Now, I know you're like me and your holiday shopping list is, let's just say, far from complete. Well, if that's the case, I've got the perfect gift for the passionate sports fans in your life. Perhaps you've heard of Ice Shaker. Ice Shaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and Major League Baseball, and will make the ideal gift. Created by and used by the Gronkowski brothers, Ice Shakers has sold over 1 million bottles. They have changed the game with the workout bottles, and this is the gift you've been looking for. Go to iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout to save 25% on your first order. Now, these are the real deal. I use mine all the time. Now, you got kitchen-grade stainless steel bottles. They won't absorb like the plastic bottles do. You got a patented twist and agitator that breaks up powders but is silent when you shake it instead of the annoying ball. You guys know what I'm talking about. Third-party test. It will hold ice for 30-plus hours. It's customizable. You can send them your logo, and they'll get it back to you. The turnaround time is usually 3 to 5 business days, and the agitator works as a strainer as well. It makes a very solid tailgating cup to mix drinks. Now, order your team branded bottles today at iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. Ice Shakers, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. Ice Shakers. And a friendly reminder that today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, I love the holidays. My favorite part is the movies. I love Christmas classics. Elf, A Christmas Story, Home Alone, A Nightmare Before Christmas. Love Christmas classic. That's my comfort zone. That's what I love to do during this time of year. Now, another way to get some comfort is therapy. Therapy is a great way to bring yourself some comfort that never goes away, even when the seasons change. And therapy can help you in so many different ways. Positive coping skills, learn how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. Now, if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also want to send a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot tell you how much that means to us. Hey, we just had Thanksgiving. We are thankful for the Ramley out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. We actually have a Cyber Monday special right now. You can join the Everyday Listeners Club of Locked On Rams. All you have to do is watch or listen to a Locked On Rams episode Monday through Friday, wherever your podcast, watch on YouTube, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Also, drop your comments down below. We're going to start reading the comments more on these episodes as well. We want to hear everything you have to say about your Los Angeles Rams. All right, here in our second segment, we want to talk about Blake Corum and Kyren Williams. The run game looked great at times, and I think my second big takeaway is they have a chance to be a special duo. Real thunder and lightning vibes with Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, the Wolverine and the Fighting Irish, the Notre Dame Michigan connection right there. And I think it was really clear in this one that, yes, Kyren Williams is still McVay's guy, and he's still going to get a lion's share of the snaps. But even though Kyren did start the game, Blake Corum got the first carry of the game. It wasn't Kyren Williams. Now, Williams still led the Rams with 15 carries, had 104 yards, had a big touchdown in the red zone. But Blake Corum, 8 carries for 42 yards. And I think we know now with Kyren that when he's out, they don't have to miss a beat. They don't have to say, okay, let's run different offense. We're going to go out there, and if we need to go with what's been working with Kyren Williams, we can do the same exact thing with Blake Corum. Because I think when you watch Blake Corum, there's this unexplainable juice that he runs with, this je ne sais quoi. He's got the it factor. You can't necessarily just pinpoint it, but you can feel it when he's got the ball in his hands. And he just kind of slithers. He hits the hole hard. He runs fluid. And he just kind of makes things happen. Falls forward, got that bowling ball running style. And he's also really fresh. I want to point that out as well. Is he's fresh and does not have a ton of wear and tear. Yes, he played a ton at Michigan, but this season, he's been on the sideline a lot. It's been Kyren Williams mostly throughout the season, but just look at him, the production on Sunday. He had a 9-yard rush. He had a 10-yard rush, 5 yards, 6 yards. And this was all in one drive, the Rams' second drive of the game. So he hits the hole hard. He's got a lot in the tank. He's fresh out there. And I think that he's the perfect complement to Kyren Williams. And Kyren doesn't have to feel like he has to do it all, right? He doesn't have to feel like the guy who does all the work on the group project, right? You got other guys out there that can help you get the job done on the ground. And I think if you're a Rams fan, you're watching this and you're like, hey, man, Blake Corum already has 32 yards rushing before Kyren Williams has ever even toted the rock on Sunday. Well, I guarantee you, I know the kind of competitor that Kyren Williams is. He saw Blake Corum out there eating. He saw him cooking out there, and he said, you know what? When I get in this game, I'm going to show coach. I'm going to show my teammates. I'm not going to fumble like I have. I mean, league leader in fumbles as a running back right there at the top, and that's been an issue for him lately. He corrected that on Sunday. Didn't have any issues in that department. But I also think that Sean McVay, I mean, this is him playing some 4D chess. This is him getting the best out of his guy and saying, hey, wait, we drafted Blake Corum in the 3rd round, right? We have to use him. Also, hey, let's get a spark. Let's get underneath Kyren Williams' skin a little bit and say, hey, you got to step up and you have to continue to produce, right? So I think that having a little bit of a competition in there, even though we know it's not a competition, it's Kyren Williams' backfield, but having someone back there to push him is only going to help this team. It's only going to help this team. Let's not forget that C.J. Anderson, as great as Todd Gurley was a few years back in his heyday, 2017, 2018, I mean, when they were absolutely cooking, C.J. Anderson was someone that spelled Todd Gurley, so he didn't have to do all the work. So I love the fact that you got Blake Corum out there and you had him actually have a role in this one. It wasn't just a touch here in garbage time. No, they went to him early and they showed a lot of trust in him. And the cool thing about that too is Kyron Williams, he gets in the game and he had 5 straight carries for 39 yards. And then after that, he had 37 yards and scored a touchdown. So you could see the fire that he was playing with when he got another opportunity. So that's a great development. I do think that, hey, Rob Havenstein being back, Steve Avila looking better, some adjustments for him. You got a better offensive line with a little more cohesion with Bo Limmer, with Dotson, who's been a rock, with Havenstein back, with Alaric Jackson. So I like the state of this running game, and we need to see this team lean on this running game, quite frankly. This team is not going to win this division and make some noise in the playoffs unless they're committed to running the football and doing it the way they did on Sunday with a nice balance and going to it when you needed to. So really like what I saw from the run game on Sunday. Now, coming up next, we've got an update on the NFC playoff picture and where the Rams stand right now. Will they make the playoffs? Like the great Jim Morris Sr. once said. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. All right, let's talk about FanDuel, Rams fans. Now, you can get a big return over at FanDuel. Of course, America's #1 sportsbook. If you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you think now may not be a bad time to get in there and check out all the latest odds, you can view live play-by-play. And, of course, there's so much more on the same page where you're placing your bets. So we're going to get you started at FanDuel with $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed when you play your first $5 bet. Let me say that one more time. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Now let's take a look at where the Rams stand this week, taking on one of the best teams in the NFL, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. The Rams, surprisingly, are just 4.5-point underdogs. The over-under is set at 49.5. So you're going to find these kind of stats and so much more over at FanDuel. So what you have to do is go to FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app on your phone, and they're going to get you started with $200 in bonus bucks guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Okay, so I love just sitting on the couch watching my 75-inch 4K TV, watching basketball, baseball, football, whatever's going on, I'm locked in. But sometimes there's nothing like going to the game and experience it in person. In Los Angeles, there's so much going on. You got the Rams, you got the Lakers, you got the Kings. Lots of stuff happening in Los Angeles, but you need a ticket. And where are you going to get those tickets? Gametime. Put the Gametime app on your phone because Gametime makes getting tickets to live events even easier than ever before. Gametime takes all the fluff away to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time looking at thousands of tickets. You want to go see the Lakers? You want to go see NFL, Chargers, Rams, you want to go see the Los Angeles Kings, the Mighty Ducks, whatever it is, Gametime is where you get the best tickets. Gametime has you covered, and the closer you get to Gametime, the actual Gametime, the lower the prices are going to get. So put the Gametime app on your phone. Curation makes it easy to save on sports, comedy, and concerts, anything that's going on in your area. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, terms apply, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off, and download the Gametime app today. What time is it? Game time. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, so let's talk some playoffs, where the Rams stand right now. Sitting at 6-6. The Rams are now 10th in the NFC through 13 weeks of the season. And NFL.com, they give the Rams a 20% chance of making the playoffs with 5 games to play. So you don't love those odds, but there's still a lot to like. for the Rams' chances, especially when you consider the fact that, hey, you're 6-6 after you've been really hurt by injuries early on. You had a tough early part of your schedule. Matthew Stafford hasn't played his best football. You're breaking in a ton of rookies, and second-year players are still emerging on defense. The cornerback play has been bad. You got a new defensive coordinator on the offensive side of the football. Puka and Kupp, they were out for a significant time. You had offensive line dealing with injuries. So, yes, you can kind of look at 6-6 and say, man, it could be a lot worse. And you come back trailing 6-0 to beat that Saints team. You scored 21 points in the second half. You're now sitting at 500 with 5 games to play, and they're still alive. The truth is they still have a pulse. They still have an opportunity to make things interesting. And we know that this is a Rams team under Sean McVay that finishes strong, that when they see the light at the end of the tunnel, guys like Matthew Stafford play their best football towards the end of the season heading into the playoffs. And you look at this division, the Seahawks right on top at 7-5. The Rams beat the Seahawks on the road, and they're going to take on the Seahawks at home on January 5th to end the season. Now, the Bills game on Sunday, 1:25 start. That's a tough one. Bills Mafia is going to be out in force. That Bills team has been absolutely on fire of late ever since Stephon Diggs kind of gave Josh Allen that little side eye there. He's kind of gone off recently, engaged to Haley Steinfeld, so congratulations to him. But you look at that Bills team. They're 10-2. They've won 7 in a row. They've scored 30 points in their last 6 games. It's going to be a tall task for this Rams defense, but they can still lose on Sunday to the Bills and still have some life in the division, because look at the schedule after that. December 12th, Thursday night football game, you go to San Francisco. Never easy to go up to Levi's Stadium and win up in San Francisco, but Christian McCaffrey's on the IR. That San Francisco team, they've been a bust. Let's be honest. That 49ers team, they thought that window was wide open. When I say on this show last year, that window was not going to be as wide open as a lot of San Francisco Niner fans thought that it was going to be. So that's a winnable game. Thursday night football, certainly. Jets on the road. It's the New York Jets. It's the Jets, okay? We know that Aaron Rodgers has just not worked out that offense with Garrett Wilson and just this team in New York. I mean, you go out there and trade for Devontae Adams, and has it really been an upgrade for him when you look at that team? So that's certainly a winnable game. The Cardinals at home. We saw the Cardinals have a lot of success this season. They blew out the Rams in week 2. That's going to be a tough one, but then you got the Seahawks at home. So I think that if you win 2 of your next 3 games and you're still firmly in that mix, I like the Rams' chances against the Cardinals at home. I love their chances against the Seahawks at home. Historically, Sean McVay has had a lot of success against the Seahawks. You guys know my NFC West circle of life. 49ers beat the Rams. That's changing. And the Rams got the one win that mattered most, 2021 NFC Championship game. The Rams beat the Seahawks. And then the Seahawks beat the 49ers. And everyone beats the Cardinals. That's starting to change a little bit. The NFC circle of life, the NFC West circle of life has changed a little bit. But the fact that their best chance of making the playoffs is by winning the division, that's something that can scare you a little bit. But when you look at this division, no one scares me. You don't have that juggernaut. I mean, who in this division do you think could beat the Lions in the playoffs as it stands right now? I think the Rams overcome a lot of things. You got a great coach. You got a great quarterback. You got a defense that's getting better and better. I think people are failing to realize this when it comes to the Rams, that they're rookies, really not rookies anymore, especially Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. Kobe Turner, is he a second-year guy? Feels like more of a fourth or fifth-year guy. Same with Byron Young. The cornerback play is something that they need to clean up and get better at and get better results with. But I do think that the fact that you look at where this division is, the Seahawks and the Cardinals, they both play each other this week. So what you want this week, Ramley, is you want the Cardinals and the Rams to both win, and then you get a 3-way tie for first place in the NFC West, and you're sitting at 7-6 above 500. If the Seahawks and Rams get dubs this week. The Seahawks are going to still be ahead of the Rams by one game in the division, but the Rams have already beaten the Seahawks this season, and then you play them again in Week 18, and that game could be a game that decides who wins the NFC West. So you're still in the playoff mix. I mean, how many teams are posting thank you fans memes, right? And thinking about the draft? Not the Rams right now. So I like it. I'm here for it because I still think this team has not played their best football. Are they a flawed team? Sure. Is this the team that we saw a couple years ago that won a Super Bowl? It's not. Not as many veterans and proven players, but they're still doing a lot of things better, and they're improving in a lot of areas, and their young players are getting experience. Their young coaches are getting experience. Sean McVay is still as competitive as ever. This replace Sean McVay crazy doomer crowd I've seen is just insane to me, of course, at times, and I get it. You're emotional about your team, but let's not forget, you got a great quarterback. You got a great coach. You always have a chance. It's just about finding a way to find these wins. And who knows? Maybe they shock the world and beat the Buffalo Bills. We know the Bills' success they had on ring night back in 2021 against this Rams team, and you don't love this matchup per se. And we saw, too, the big talent gap that existed between the Rams and the Eagles. So last time the Rams faced an elite opponent, that was the case. And, yes, you did beat the Vikings on TNF, and the Vikings have one of the better records in the league, but it's another good test for the Rams. It really, really is. And I'll tell you what, you disappointed against the Dolphins, you disappointed against the Eagles. Look, I mean, the Rams kind of owe us one where they kind of overperform. And that Bills team, you've won a lot of games consecutively. They're due for a little road loss. So just keep things interesting. And I think Matthew Stafford kind of found something late in this one, too. In the run game with Blake Corum and Kyron Williams, I still think the Rams have a chance to win on Sunday. But we're going to break down this game more tomorrow, winners and losers, talk more about the defense. We're going to talk more about this Rams offense, how you can really kick it up a notch and get up to 30 points and not always be in the late teens and 20s. That's coming up tomorrow, but that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house is Locked On Rams house?